Let's move on to bad week. Who has had a bad week, Dominic?
It's been a bad week for the world's leading AI chatbot, ChatGPT. A Norwegian man called Arve Hjalmar Holmen has filed a complaint with the Norwegian Data Protection Authority against OpenAI, the US company behind ChatGPT, because when he asked ChatGPT the question, "Who is Arve Hjalmar Holmen?" it answered by saying that Arve had murdered two of his sons and that he'd been in prison for 21 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, I'll come to that in a bit, but I should first clarify this is not true. Arve has never murdered anyone. He's never been accused of murdering anyone. He's just your regular non-murdering dad.
Jesus.
Arve reported OpenAI to the Norwegian Data Protection Authorities because he believes the statement to be defamatory and damaging to him. And he thinks ChatGPT should be fined for breaking, according to him, Europe's data protection laws.
I would say that counts as defamation. Yeah, falsely claiming that somebody murdered their kids, definitely. I mean, is it possible that ChatGPT was talking about a different person with exactly the same name? Like maybe there is another guy who is called this who did commit this terrible crime.
Yeah, that could have been the case, but it's not the case. And the thing that's so shocking about this answer is that it was kind of mixed up with facts that are true about Arve's life. Like it got correct the hometown he lives in, the number of kids he has, their gender, and the age gaps between his children. It just made up the bit about him murdering his two sons.
Okay, so this whole thing is very, very disturbing. I mean, on the other hand, it is kind of known that AI chatbots are not to be fully trusted. No? I mean, like ChatGPT has famously had problems with getting stuff wrong.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I hope people are aware of that ChatGPT gets a lot of things wrong. I do think a lot of people just believe what they are told on one of these AI chatbots. But in OpenAI's defense, there is a disclaimer at the bottom of the page when you ask ChatGPT anything that says, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there are simple factual inaccuracies, and then there is making up that you murdered your children and that their bodies were found in a pond near your home.
Oh wow. Imagine some quite gruesome details there. Yeah. I mean, do we know how it came up with the story? Like, do we know what is happening inside that AI black box? Why would ChatGPT fabricate something like that?
Well, the made-up facts in this answer are what is referred to in the AI world as hallucinations. Hallucinations happen because the chatbot functions by predicting what the next word in a sentence is most likely to be. So it's a predictive approach that can, of course, lead to factual errors. And OpenAI say they are trying to work out how to reduce the number of hallucinations all the time. They also point out that this answer that Arve received was using an old model of ChatGPT, and that this kind of factual error, they claim, wouldn't happen with the updated model, which is enhanced with online search capacities that, quote, improve accuracy. I wanted to double check, so I tried searching the question, who is Arve Hjalmar Holmen, in the current version of ChatGPT. I should flag up, it's the free version. I don't pay for the enhanced model. And indeed, it came up with a more accurate answer that begins, Arve Hjalmar Holmen is a Norwegian citizen residing in Trondheim. He leads a private life, is not a public figure, and has never been accused or convicted of any crime.
Does it actually say that?
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying, robots.
I also, just because I was curious, decided to search you and me, Katie, on ChatGPT. Yeah. And in our cases, it was actually alarmingly accurate, which I guess is good news, but I also found it a bit freaky how much it knows about us. Like it was talking about our different heritage and I found that a bit weird.
Interesting. Guess that's what happens when you put a podcast on the internet and talk about yourself for 7 years.
Exactly, yeah. But honestly, I only had to ask ChatGPT a few follow-up questions about Arve's data protection claim. And I quickly came across things that the model was just making up. So, for example, I asked if anyone had written any interesting opinion pieces about Arve's defamation claim against ChatGPT in Norway. And it listed and summarized 3 articles discussing instances where ChatGPT has generated defamatory content. I thought, great. And I asked Chat to give me the links to the 3 articles it had summarized. And then it said, I apologize for the earlier confusion. Upon further research, I found that the previously mentioned articles do not exist.
Oh my God. So even when talking about its own lies, it makes stuff up. Get it together.
I know, I couldn't believe it. People, be careful when using ChatGPT or any other AI chatbots. They are indeed inclined to make things up. Do you ever use it, Katie?
I actually don't really at all. I mean, I guess I'm just a bit too old school as a journalist to go anywhere near it for anything to do with my work. But people in my life are increasingly using it for various stuff. And it has like genuinely useful applications. So my sister-in-law, for example, was trying to organize a lunch for a bunch of people with different like allergies and dietary requirements. It was really complicated. And she asked ChatGPT to come up with a menu, and it actually had really good ideas.
That sounds like a great use of it and kind of risky when it comes to putting the allergy requirements in and knowing that ChatGPT can make mistakes.
That is true. Nobody died though, so all good.
Okay, good. Pleased to hear that. Anyway, going back to Arve's complaint against ChatGPT, his referral to the Norwegian data protection authorities is being led by an Austrian data privacy group called NOIB. NOIB are making the complaint because, of course, being accused of murder can, quote, seriously damage a person's reputation. Which, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it really could. ChatGPT is used by so many people these days as essentially a search engine. And if it's saying you've murdered someone or committed some other awful crime, some people could believe it. And Noib is saying that this is not an isolated case. They flag up a few other cases of alleged defamation against chatbots, including there was this famous case of an Australian mayor who was falsely labeled as being part of a bribery and corruption scandal by OpenAI. And there was also a German journalist who was accused of being a child molester by Microsoft's AI chatbot.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Awful.
So Noib claimed that OpenAI are knowingly allowing ChatGPT to produce defamatory results and therefore are violating the GDPR's principle of data accuracy.
GDPR. Everyone's favorite European data protection law.
Yes, the GDPR. I actually feel like it is lots of people's favorite data protection law. But I mean,
don't know many others.
No, but it is claimed to be the strongest data protection legislation in the entire world. And I think a lot of people come across it when going on a website while they're in Europe and having to accept the cookies. And some people find that annoying. But it does have some really great things about it that help protect us as citizens. Joachim Söderberg is a data protection lawyer at Noib, and he said the following: the GDPR is clear. Personal data has to be accurate, and if it's not, users have the right to have it changed to reflect the truth. Showing ChatGPT users a tiny disclaimer that the chatbot can make mistakes clearly isn't enough. You can't just spread false information and then, in the end, add a small disclaimer saying that everything you said may just not be true.
Yeah. I mean, so what are Noib and Arve hoping that the Norwegian data protection authorities are actually going to do in response to this complaint?
Well, they hope that OpenAI will be forced to delete the quote-unquote defamatory content about Arve. I don't know why I said quote-unquote. I mean, it is pretty clearly defamatory. And they're hoping that even though the misinformation doesn't appear anymore, but still there is no way to know if the fake data about Arve is still being used in the data set of ChatGPT, because by default, ChatGPT feeds its user data back into the system for training purposes. And the lawyer just referred to it, but there's this right to rectification of personal data, which is a key part of the GDPR law. So that's the right to request a correction of inaccurate data that a company holds about a person. There's currently no system in place whereby individuals can request that incorrect data about them on ChatGPT is corrected. That seems like something that will surely have to change if chatbots like ChatGPT want to continue functioning in the European market. Noib also urge OpenAI to further fine-tune their model, which, to be fair to OpenAI, they do seem to be doing anyway. And they also think OpenAI should be presented with an administrative fine as a disincentive to allowing the program to make similar mistakes in the future.
How much can a company actually be fined under the GDPR rules?
A lot of money.
Ooh.
Under the most serious set of infringements, the authorities can fine a company 20 million euros or 4% of the firm's worldwide annual revenue from the preceding financial year, whichever amount is higher.
Oh.
OpenAI were actually already fined 15 million euros by Italy's data protection watchdog at the end of last year for violations in collecting users' personal data. I believe that OpenAI are currently appealing that one. And look, it's been a bad week for ChatGPT. This complaint does not show the chatbot in a good light, and it could lead to a reprimanding from the data protection authorities once again. But it's important to note that there is a lot of uncertainty about how the authorities will deal with a case like this one from Arve. The ubiquity of generative AI is still pretty new in Europe, and Europe's privacy regulatory bodies are still working out quite how to apply the GDPR to generative AI. I will stop talking about it now, but if you really want to get into the legal nitty-gritty of this topic, then I'll share a link in the show notes to a very detailed article about generative AI lawfulness in the EU context from TechCrunch.
Sounds like a thrilling read. It genuinely does, because,
Yeah.
as discussed, we're nerds. So I will read that with pleasure.
Okay, enjoy.